Hello, today we're going to be talking about comparing fractions and decimals. And what that means we're going to do is tell which one is greater and which one is smaller. Sometimes we'll have more than two, so we'll just be putting them in order from least to greatest. So for example, 1a, we want to know which one is greater, 3/20 or 16%. In order to compare them, we need to have them in the same form. So either we need to have them both as fractions, we need to have them both as decimals, or we need to have them both as percents. In doing so, we can tell which one is the larger and which one is the smaller. Since I have in example A both a fraction and a percent, I can write them as either both fractions or both percents. Whichever you prefer is fine. I'll go ahead and do it both ways so you can see it both ways. If I want to write both as fractions, I'm going to leave my 3/20, that's already a fraction, which cannot be reduced, and I will write my 16% as a fraction. Percent means over 100, so I have 16/100. From there, I can't quite compare them yet because the denominators are different, but if I make the denominators the same, I'm able to tell which one is larger. So my goal is to now make the 20 and the 100 the same, so I want these two numbers to match. In order to do that, I can divide the 100 by 5. Now I can't really divide 16 by 5, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and get a decimal, that's fine, as long as we get an idea for which number is larger. So on my calculator, I'm going to go ahead and type in 16 divided by 5. On the top I find that I have a numerator of 3.2. So 16 divided by 5 is 3.2, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. Now the two numbers I'm comparing are the 3/20 and the 3.2/20. Since 3.2 is greater, that means that this number is larger than the 3/20. However, they didn't give us 3.2/20. They gave us 16%. So my final answer would be that 16% is greater. I'll now go ahead and repeat this example, turning them both into percents instead of both into fractions. If I want to turn both of them into percents, I have 3/20, and I'm comparing that with 16%. We know that the word percent means over 100, so if I can turn my 3/20 into 3/100, we can turn it into a percent. To turn the 20 into 100, I'm just going to multiply the denominator by 5. In doing so, I find that 3 times 5 is 15, 20 times 5 is 100. I have 15/100. Over 100 is the same as percent, so this also means 15%. Now I'm comparing 15% with 16%, so I still have that 16% is greater. Whichever way you do it, we end up with 16% is greater. In example B, we can either turn both of them into percents or both of them into decimals. I'll go ahead and turn both numbers into percents. My first number is 79%. My second number is 0.08. To turn that second number into a percent, I'm going to pick up my decimal and move it to the right 2 times. Moving right, I have 1, 2, which gives me 8%. Because 8% is smaller than 79%, 79% is the larger number. And be careful to double check that that was one of the two original numbers they gave you. It is, so my answer is 79% is greater. Go ahead to take a moment and pause the video. Try on your own, number 1 and 2 on your own. For number 1, we can either write them both as fractions or both as percents. I'll go ahead and do them both ways. To write 25% as a fraction, I would have 25/100. But then again, I need to reduce that down so that the denominators match. I have a 25 in the denominator of my fraction, so I want a 25 in the denominator of my other fraction. So I'll go ahead and divide by 4, because 100 divided by 4 is 25. In doing so, I have 100 divided by 4 on the bottom is 25, but I do not know what 25 divided by 4 is off the top of my head. So I'll pull up my calculator. 25 divided by 4, and I find 6.25. So I have 6.25, and I'm comparing that with 7 over 25. The bottom numbers are the same, but since the top number is bigger in the second fraction, that tells me that 7 over 25 is the greater. Similarly, we can do this by turning my 7 over 25 into a percent. So if I start with 7 over 25, and I want to turn it into a percent, all I'm going to do is make sure that the bottom is 100, because percent means over 100. So I'll go ahead and multiply by 4, because I know that 25 times 4 is 100. In doing so, I find that my fraction is 28 over 100, which is 28%. So my 7 over 25 is actually 28%. If I'm comparing that 28% with the other number they give me, which is 25%, I find that 28% is bigger. But we need to be careful because 28% is not a number they gave us. They gave us 7 over 25 and 25%. Since 28% is just another way to write my 7 over 25, my final answer is still 7 over 25 is greater. For number 2, I've got a decimal and a percent. I'll go ahead and just write them both as percents. To turn 49 into a percent, I pick up my decimal, move it to the right 2 times, and end up with 49%. I'm comparing that with 94%. 94% is definitely greater. And double checking, it is one of the 2 numbers in the original list. They wanted us to compare 0.49 and 94. 94% is greater, so my final answer, 94% is greater. In example 2, you, your friend, and your sister are each taking the same number of shots on a soccer goal. You make 72%, your sister makes 19 over 25, and your friend makes 0.67. We want to know who makes the fewest shots. In order to compare these numbers again, we need to have them either all 3 as fractions, all 3 as percents, or all 3 as decimals. It doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to go ahead and pick percents. So right now you have 72% of your shots made. We're going to find your sisters in terms of percentages, and then we are going to find your friend in terms of percentages. So first off, your sister. Your sister makes 19 out of 25. I can turn this into a percent by first making the denominator 100. So I'm going to multiply the 25 by 4 to get the 100 I want, but that means I have to multiply the top by 4. In doing so, 19 times 4, I find is 76. On the bottom, 25 times 4 is 100. Since percent means out of 100, and I have 76 out of 100, this just gives me 76%. So your sister makes 76%. Your friend. Your friend makes 0.67. This is a decimal. I want to turn it into a percent. So I pick up my decimal place and just move it 2 spots to the right. 1, 2. I end up with 67%. So your friend makes 67% of their shots. Looking at these 3 numbers, you make 72%, your sister makes 76%, your friend makes 67%. we see that your friend is the one that makes the fewest shots on the goal. So our final answer would be your friend makes the fewest shots. Go ahead and take a moment to please pause the video and try the last on your own. Again, we have you, your friend, and your sister making shots on a soccer goal. We need them all as percents, all as decimals, or all as fractions, whatever you prefer. I'm going to go ahead this time and do them all as decimals. So you, your sister, and your friend. You make 75% of your shots on the soccer goal. To turn that into a decimal, I just pick up my decimal place, which is after the 5, move it to the left 2 times. Or we have also talked about that percent means over 100, so I can write this as 75 over 100, and then simply divide to get 0.75. So you make 0.75 of your shots on the soccer goal. Your sister makes 13 out of 20. To turn that into a decimal, we have talked about earlier in the year that all we need to do is simply divide the two numbers, 13 divided by 20. So on a calculator, I'll take 13, I'll divide it by 20, and I end with 0.65. So your sister makes 0.65 of her shots on the soccer goal. Lastly, your friend makes 0.7. That one's already a decimal, so we can leave it. So now we have you making 0.75, your sister making 0.65, and your friend making 0.7. Looking at these numbers, we're looking for who made the most shots. Since you have the greatest decimal, you would be the one making the most shots. This concludes our lesson on comparing decimals, percents, and fractions. Thanks so much for watching.